And we're live.
Hey, we're live.
We're live.
Welcome. Episode 67 of the Wide Awake in Babylon podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Tom.
He's Tom. That's Isaac. That's Arturo.
Hola.
Arturo's from Peru. He's the translator in Santuario when we go down there.
I was born in Peru,
Yes.
but I'm not from Peru.
Bring it closer.
I was born in Peru, but I'm not from Peru.
Pull it.
Where are you from?
I was born in Peru.
Oh, okay. So you're from Peru. And Wally. Well, and yeah, episode 67. We've done this 67. This is our 67th time doing this.
Almost
obviously.
67.
I'm being obvious, Captain Obvious. And, you know, we talked last week. I think we talked about it last week. But a friend of ours, who has been a longtime friend of mine, has asked a question. So we're going to read this, and then we're going to go into it. Because it might be a little, you know, more of what we talked about last week and to some extent. But, you know, it is what it is. So he said, topic suggestion. How can we detect the presence or influence of the flyer within ourselves, others, and the external world? To what extent does the flyer influence our thoughts and our manufactured identity? Okay, so to start off, flyer is not a common term to everybody. Right?
Mud shadows.
So unless you've, you know, delved into Carlos Castaneda's material, then it's probably not a word you've heard before. There are other words for it in other, you know, cultures and traditions. There's the jinn. That's one of them. Let's see what else. There's the Wentigo, which is what the Native Americans said the white people were covered with. It's like a mind virus in that sense. Let's see. There's also demon, if you're, you know, more religiously inclined, right? There's chaos, if you decide that you don't believe in anything. Yeah, chaos.
That's for the atheists.
Yeah. So the thing about them, it's very hard for anybody to acknowledge because the Western world has removed this from education. Mm-hmm. I think it was something we all used to know about. And there was a possibility of keeping these things in check to an extent, right? But what the flyer is what your manufactured identity is. It is that. It's the thoughts in your head. That's what it is. And the thing about the flyers, where Don Juan goes into it much deeper, is that they gave you their mind. So when you think you're thinking for yourself, you are giving the energy to this thing to be present within you. That makes any sense?
Yes, I also think of it as it took your body. It's another way to say it.
Yeah. And, you know, and I kind of wonder sometimes if, you know, all these technological advances, if there's somewhat behind that, because hack the human being. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've watched, so, you know, when you see like someone go psychotic and shoot something up, right? It's like at that moment they were hacked, right? That no human heart really has it in them to do that. So the influence of these things can get from, you know, a mild irritation all the way up to absolute chaos, psychotic, dark, evil behavior. It can influence, you know, the whole parameter, you know, every frequency of what that is. The reason the Westerners have a hard time with it is you can't see it. It's not like it walks up and gets in your face. Although I think people are becoming more aware of it. I think it's more, you know, it seems to be more in conversation. This kind of, what is this dark force that we're all kind of feeling, you know, coming down? It's like, is there something to be afraid of? Well, for some, yeah. And for others, it's something to face, right? It's something to stand up to and take back the dignity, the energy, the power that it's been basically stealing from you, right? And I mean, yeah, again, it sounds wacky as can be because you can't see it. But the minute that there's that twinge in your central nervous system, the minute there's a thought that brings your energy in your well-being low, when there's that thought that kind of dims your, let's say, your ability to be motivated in your life, that's them, right? And the way they can manipulate a human is through thought forms, right? So it's like an energetic configuration that has its own volition in a sense, but it comes into you as a thought. And the minute you decide to put energy into that thought, you'll feel it. I mean, anybody, I think part of what the healing that needs to happen with people is you need to learn how to be sensitive again. You can't be so callous to everything, because otherwise you won't really feel what's happening to you. You have to be able to be deeply sensitive, which, you have to understand what your own central nervous system, where its natural state is. So you can know when something's taking it in other places, right? And usually you feel it first, and then that feeling comes in, and there's some kind of thought that gravitates through your head, through that feeling, and you start fueling that with emotion. And the emotion is the harvested energy, right? If you stand in it's weird. It's like the only thing that I found that actually deflects any of that is silence. And that's what Don Juan says. You tax them with silence. They want to make so much noise in your head, and in turn, they want you to make so much noise in the world, right? And just be noisy, noisy, noisy. That, it's only silence that actually, it's almost like it repels them. Silence is toxic to it. Because it's not, if it can have no influence, it tends to lose its power really quickly, right? And when you're standing your ground and it's trying to put a thought in you to take you to some behavior you don't want to have, well, then you have to be able to hold your own. Hear it, that's fine. It's going to shout in your ear like a bullhorn. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to invest in it. You can choose to think the thought, but then you've also chosen where that's going to take you, haven't you? And it's not something that I think everybody's born to deal with necessarily. I mean, everybody's got different roles they play. But for those that notice that, yeah, I mean, that's something that, that can you defend yourself against it? Yeah, but even more, you can defeat it. Right. And that it's how deeply you're committed to the relationship with what's looking out of your eyeballs prior to any thoughts, before any thoughts even enter your head, that you have a deep relationship with what that is, because that's the power. That is the presence that pierces all things. Right now, is that going to come to you as knowledge? No. Will you be able to approach that with knowledge? No, because knowledge is a step to knowing, but it's still thinking, right? You assemble knowledge. But when you get to knowing, it's very interesting. There's an energetic thing that happens that you really couldn't describe to anybody anyway. You start to recognize what your identities actually are. You start to recognize how they were actually constituted in you, right? It could be past experiences, of course, but if you really look closely, there's one identity within you that's genuine. And that's the one that can be quiet. That's the one that can actually sit there and allow the presence of life to pierce through your eyeballs and pierce through your own brain, through your own central nervous system, through your own auric field, your own, whatever you want to call that energy field that is you, and radiate out. Right, which is kind of what would you call that? Like immune system, right? And when you start to find where these other identities in you that have doubt, that have confusion, that have fear, they're susceptible to those things. That's where the flyer plays. But the thing is, each one of those identities is the flyer. That's the hardest thing to really comprehend, is that if it's infested in you, you think it's you. Which, you take people into a medicine ceremony, they're like, I'm dying. It's like, you're not dying. One of your identities is losing its grip. And the fact that you've invested so much life force into that identity through attention, giving it so much attention, you're so connected to it that you're feeling its death inside of yourself. Right? So that's a hard thing to get used to, because there's several identities that are very glued to this world. And they're glued to the objectivity of it, the competition of it, the success of it, the abundance of it, the consumption of it, right? But those identities really are the flyers. To keep you glued to a world that you were only meant to stop and learn in and take it as paradise, right? And consider nothing else. So to only consider the activity of life on Earth without acknowledging what's allowing all of that to be happening, right? And that is the flyer itself. Its ultimate goal is to distract you from the true connection to what's looking out of your eyeballs, life itself, right? And in that, there's the infinite freedom. It's nowhere else. It's not on this planet. It's not in some thought. It's not in philosophy. It's in what's looking out of the eyeballs. And that being allowed to come fully through without anyone getting in the way, without any identity getting in the way, without any hang-up coming in and stopping it, without any trembling of the central nervous system. A difficult task, some would say impossible, but not undoable. It's only because it's going to be impossible to the thing that won't even be there to experience it, right? So it's like a shedding in a way. It's the great cleansing in a way, that you're washing away identities that are just fragments of, other identities. And just keep cleaning the slate. Just keep cleaning it and cleaning it until you get to that one inside that can actually have enough awareness, enough attention, enough sensitivity, enough maturity, enough strength, and enough courage to actually notice what's afoot in its own brain, right? Let alone the world outside. And to me, I think, one of the reasons the Warriors Party was so absolutely important is because these things are so sneaky. The demons, the jinn, the whatever, this negative force. It's sneaky as shit, and it's way smarter than we are. So there's really no way to outsmart it, but someone else can see it happening and point it out, right? And let you in on what's ailing you. That takes a strong amount of trust, right? And it takes a lot of allowing yourself to see something from another vantage point. Mm-hmm. And that really helps, because they're going to come at you the minute you figure out what angle they're coming at you from, what identity they're really manipulating inside of you to get you to throw your energy all over the place. The minute you find out where they're coming from, they're going to be coming through a different one.
The realization will become the new identity. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, now I understand. I'm an understander. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for humans to flourish, that has to go. Because it's what creates all the reasons people will, participate in the 7 deadly sins. We were talking today, like here in America, the deadly sin is greed. In Peru, it's envy and jealousy, right? I mean, and it's different for different cultures, but that's the influence of the flyer. That's the influence of, the jinn, the dark, the
Wentigo.
Yeah, evil spirits is what Enrique would call them. Evil spirits.
Mind viruses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they were dealing with real things. It's like all this talk about the Bible. It's like, is it real? Is it not real? It's not true. Is it true? Is it not true? It's your ancestors trying to tell you something. I really doubt they were doing it for entertainment purposes. And I really doubt they were doing it to pull a prank on you. And what are they, laughing in their graves at the fact that we bought into all that? I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to it. Absolutely. And I think, a lot of those stories show what happens when you let one of those things in. Is that knowledge, is that wisdom in those books? Is that highlighted? No. It's all about how bad you are, How you need to do something. You need to do something. But, there's those influences that, yes, we give them our power, so we are responsible for it. But, there has to be a shift in the society where they notice these things. It's like when you're on top of the world and all of a sudden it's just collapsing underneath you. What happened? And I don't think people stop long enough to look. It's like everything was going well and then it goes sideways. What happened? right? What was not noticed? What was not paid attention to? What were you not aware of? Mm-hmm. Because who wants anything to go south, off the rails, to go into chaos, to go into darkness? Nobody wants that. But yet they find themselves in it. You know, it can be absolutely baffled and confused how they got there. You know, so it's like the minute you want to recognize what those things are, they'll start to show themselves to you in a way that is a lot more prevalent than just being naive to it, right? And I can understand why people don't want to engage that. It is frightening because, you know, again, those things can hurt you. They're not just, this little, you know, thorn in your side. No, they could be an embedded thorn that's been getting infected and causing you to go septic. Mm-hmm. You know, and to bridge the gap to know that when your life force is drained out of you, especially by something nefarious, some nefarious act, a nefarious idea, a nefarious character, you will get sick. You know, like brujeria in Peru.
Yes.
People actually get sick.
Yes, of course. They die. Mm-hmm. Can I say something about this?
Yeah, it's been a lot of the battling that goes on down there.
Yes.
You know, and
yeah.
it's like,
it's nasty. In Pucallpa, it's Iquitos, Pucallpa, even now Cusco, Sacred Valley. It's really terrible. Where I'm from, Chiclayo, brujeria is different. They don't use ayahuasca, they use San Pedro. Mm-hmm. And they use tobacco. So it's different. But I wanted to add something about what you were talking in the beginning about demons, the jinns, and all these different names for, demons, no? Or bad spirits. I don't know how to put a name on it. Yes, but the thing is in the Bible, no? Because you mentioned the Bible. In Peru, my family, like from my father's side, they're Christian, like evangelical. Mm-hmm. And from my mother's side, they're more Catholic. But when my mother and my father were in the university, they were atheists because they were like left-handed, you know, like
communist.
Yeah, communist. So socialist, you know. Nice my mother was studying social studies, like sociology.
Socialism.
No, sociology.
Sociology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my father was studying engineer or something. But they were both part of this party. Left-handed party in Peru in the 70s. So they were both atheists, but it was really crazy because my father came from a Christian family. My grandfather, my father's father, was a Christian preacher, and my mother, she came from a very Catholic family. Like my grandmother, my grandfather, they were very Catholic people, religious people. No? But they were both atheists. When we were growing up with me and my sister, you know, they continued to be like non-believers, you know. Mm-hmm. What I was going to get about this, I get a lot of influence from my grandfather reading the Bible, you know, from Genesis to Apocalypse, the New Testament, the Old Testament, sure. Everything. And there is a lot about demons there, of course. In the Old Testament with different terminology. But in the New Testament, when Jesus appeared in the scene, you know, in the Gospels, he was recognized as miracles. He was recognized because he took the demons out of people. Mm-hmm. There was the case of this called, in Spanish, we call it lunatico, like a crazy man.
Yeah, lunatic.
Yeah? Lunatic. You know, luna means moon. Mm-hmm. So he was affected by the moon too. Like, man wolf man. It's full moon and werewolf, yeah. But he was demonized, you know, he was possessed. You can say possessed, you know, by a demon. And Jesus came here and he says, demon, go out of him. And he was like miracle, normal. His behavior became like a normal human being. Mm-hmm. He did the same thing outside a cemetery. There was a guy living in the cemetery, full with demons. He was like crazy guy, didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't drink water. He was just in the cemetery all day. And people were scared to go to the cemetery because of this crazy guy living there. Mm-hmm. And Jesus came and he says, demons, go out, mm-hmm. you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not quoting the Bible, but it's basically what it's happened, no? And they were all amazed. You know the story of Maria Magdalena? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she was also possessed by some demons before she met Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when she saw him, she was drunk, of course, and she was like, "Oh, who is this man? Yeshua, Master Yeshua." And she says, "I know your name," because she was a whore. She didn't call by her name Mary Magdalene, but she was named, I don't know, some other name. I don't know, Alexa.
That's okay.
Some name. Yeah. And Jesus told her, like, Master Yeshua. He saw to her face, to her eyes, and she told her, "You are Maria Magdalena. I release you from your suffering."
Yeah.
Yeah? He blows on mapacho. I mean, it's not in the Bible, but I'm just imagining this. And she woke up and she stopped drinking alcohol. She stopped being a whore, and she started following Jesus wherever he went.
The interesting thing about her in the end, like when you read the last of it, when he comes back, 3 days in the hole and comes out, she's the only one that recognizes him. I always thought that was very interesting.
Why do you think that is?
He saw his eyes.
Because when he came around in spirit form, I mean, according to the Gospels, when he came around in spirit form, none of the disciples recognized him, but she did. She's like, "Master, is that you?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yep, it's me." And I mean, it's weird. It's like, unless we're like really trying to plunge into what all that is, it makes no sense. I mean, it just seems like a fairy tale, but the reality of it, here's the reason why it's always going to be taken as woo-woo and, that's retarded. You believe stupid shit. Because people are enamored of the physical world. And there's not really any, well, I mean, it's changing. I know that. There hasn't really been much of a reach behind the veil to see what fuels everything, what might actually be going on. That while you're trying to plunge towards success and all your success is only leading you to more depression, to be able to see behind, the mechanics behind all this. That's where you find them, but, that's also where you find yourself. That's where you also begin to understand yourself. What is that for a human? Most often it's suffering. You have to suffer, and that's the part that I think, that people don't really understand with Jesus. He says, "Pick up your cross and follow me. Bear a cross and follow me." It's like suffering the fact, and again, I mean, this may not go off well, suffering all the identities that are not absolutely the truth of your being. Just getting rid of them, the anxieties, the fears, the desires, the perversions, the crazy thoughts, the need to just go off the rails, to just be able to purge all of that out. Right. And it's until one is no longer, I mean, until you're no longer enamored of this world, that one won't open up. There has to be like an interest within this person themselves to really look deep within and see, like, this thing looking out of your eyeballs, how much do you really know about that? And how deep does that go? And how much access do you have? And is the connection you have through that absolutely pure and strong? Or is it kind of mucked up and a little pinched off? Right? But that's going to be suffering.
You have to lay down the mask to reveal your true self to yourself, not for anybody else's benefit, more than your own.
Yeah, and sometimes the glue of that mask kind of hurts the skin as you're peeling it off. But it's like the purification process. To basically take all of this fragmented dross of identities, throw it into a crucible, and boil out the impurities.
It is most often a crucible, for sure. It's not done through thinking.
Right. And I think what you arrive at is, once you kind of do away with the distraction of the world, it doesn't mean you don't participate. It doesn't mean you just completely check out. You do what you have to do to maintain a healthy, grounded, as much peace as you can place here. But then dedicate the rest of that time to developing the relationship with what's looking out of your eyeballs, and to figure out which, so you can see for yourself which identities find that offensive and why. What identities are afraid of silence and why? What part of you has the courage to see through all of this and, sit down at the throne of your own being, right? The king that is your own being, and sit before that. Can you sit that in front of that with clarity, right? Without the need to hide, without the need to make excuses or explanations for why you are the way you are. You know what I mean? Get it real clear. Just so purge the identities that are basically influenced by these things, right? And they're always going to be the cutting a corner, seeking advantage, playing a game, telling a lie to get what you want. There's a lot of ways. I mean, we can name them all night long, but you have to find it within yourself where you do that, where you shortchange yourself, where you're not being absolutely honest with yourself, right? Where the discrepancies are. What is the trigger that sends you into chaotic behavior, into doing things you ought not to do, that you shouldn't be doing, yet you find yourself doing them anyway? So they're, those things that haunt us, they're far more dangerous than we think they are. And they're far more influential than we think they are. And the more that we make fun of them and laugh them away as if they don't exist, it just makes them that much more powerful. You know what they say, the devil's biggest trick is to trick you into believing he doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's just you then. You're the problem. Most of the mental illness is nothing more than just demons running amok on people. And some people just don't have the strength to repel that. They haven't been taught in the fashion of how to handle that side of life. You can handle your bills, you can handle your rent, you can handle your taxes, you can, handle a bunch of things, your car, your maintenance, all your stuff. And I've met a lot of people who can handle those things very well, but their internal world is a complete shitstorm. Right? And it's like, how does anybody know how to handle the shitstorm within? Yeah, that's, and if that's a shitstorm, there's no thought you're going to have that's going to clear that, because the thoughts are the shitstorm. Right? You're going to have to it's letting go of the identities that can be influenced by something of a dark, nefarious nature. Right? And if it's tied to a desire you have, well, then you better really figure out why that desire is there. And if you're having a hard time with it, there's plenty of plant allies that can help you with that. But if you're going to approach those for those things, which I don't really see there's any other reason to approach plant medicine other than you truly want to see what influences you. You want to be able to peel that veil back and see what's happening in the energetic realms to influence all this. Is this, some deep-seated behavior from some long-forgotten trauma that just kind of conditioned me to be this way for the last 40 fucking years? Some of those plant allies can definitely show you that. But, that's not something for anyone to just jump into out of curiosity. And that's the dangerous side of it, is if you're susceptible to magical thinking, to believing that your thoughts are truth, you are highly influenced. You can be highly influenced by things that are not of a good nature pretty quickly. And when you're blasted open in that space, it can be a little more, let's just say there's more at stake there. Right? Because those energy, that energy's flowing so intensely. I mean, it can be drained out of you in no time. And then you just find yourself crawling around on the floor, or quitting your job and divorcing fighting with your mate because you just have no idea what you're doing. And, so it's like you have to be able to want to look. There has to be a will to look at what the influences are. And, is it frightening? Yeah, but in the end, you just realize that it's all out of naivete. There was nothing really the heart did intentionally that was wicked, or nasty, or evil, or bad, or nefarious, ever. It's always been influenced by some thought, some emotion creeping in. It's never been the heart that's ever participated. right? And if you are locked in those behaviors long enough, you probably won't even know where your heart is anymore. Which, that's the danger spot. That's where people snap. That's where people beat up their wives, shoot their families up, go shoot up a school. There's no longer a connection to what life actually is as it's expressing itself through them. There's only these thoughts from a dark fucking place expressing themselves through that. Why are they there? I don't know. To say why, who knows that? But they are there, right? So it's not a question of why. It's a question of what are we to do about it, right? And there's no thought that can. Any thought you have about getting rid of a demon is a demon giving you the thought of how to get rid of it, which means how to double it up. Really, it's only silence that does that.
Can I finish with this thought? Following what you were saying, in the Bible, I mean, I'm not quoting the Bible because I don't have it with me now, but in the Bible it says, when a demon, when a bad spirit goes away, then 7 more comes.
If you don't keep your house clean.
Yes, if you don't keep your house clean. I mean, in the Christian way to say it, if you keep committing sins, this will come back.
Yeah, the way that's so, for me to put that in like common parlance, it's like this. If you have a nefarious influence inside of you, a demon, and you say go to the medicine man, you go to the curandero, you go to the priest, wherever you go, and have it removed, right? And you don't keep that clean, you don't keep that promise, you don't keep that
dieta
strength, right? Or that dieta, if you will.
Post dieta.
Then the demon looks at you. It knows you can kick it out. It knows it because you did. But you're inviting it back. Well, this time it won't come back alone. It's going to come back with reinforcements because it knows you can kick it out. But can you kick out 7 of us? You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's really important for anybody who really wants to be serious on a spiritual path, if you will. This has to be recognized. You have to check your anxieties. You have to check your frustrations. You have to check your fears. If you're finding yourself ill a lot, you have to see why. You have to be able to sit in discomfort, fully aware, without giving attention to anything. So when those things come in, you're aware of them, obviously, but you don't let them put thoughts in your head. You don't let your emotions get out of control. And that takes practice. Right? And what makes it dangerous is as you practice, you better start taking that very seriously, because the better you get at it, the harder they come until you've completely, then freed yourself of that. The harder they come at you. Right? And they will try to interrupt your silence. It's like I was talking to Enrique at one point. We were talking about, he's like, yeah, they just disturb your peace. And you realize how valuable your peace is, because your peace is your connection to what's making you. That's what that is. And you're supposed to be living with that, not searching for that, not trying to make that happen. That's supposed to be your baseline. Peace. And they disturb that, right? And they can disturb it in such a way that you become a disturbed human being. And when you can be so disturbed that now you're disturbing the peace all over the place in your search for peace. And that can get real sticky. I know I've said this before, but I'll reiterate it, that I was asking Carlos, the subject of the flyers came up, because I was seeing those, shadows, and you could just feel it. It's like, it's like it's ripping you open, making you kind of cold and letting you feeling your life force leak out of you. And of course, with Carlos, with him sitting next to me, he could seal me up so I didn't have to be attacked by it. But I could see them just as he would see them with Don Juan. I was seeing the same thing. And I said, how do you outsmart them? He's like, Cristobal, you can't outsmart them. They gave you your mind. The intellect you think you're using is theirs. So they're never going to let you go. I said, well, there's no outsmarting them. He's like, they live they have a lifespan that's 250,000 years. They've been here for all of human development. They've been participated in human development. Matter of fact, they're probably inside of a lot of people running things right now. Who else thinks of nuclear war? Over what? Over really what? Got all these countries pointing nuclear weapons at each other, threatening nuclear war. You know, we're starting it. We're kicking up some dust. Everybody's kicking up dust. Well, not everybody. I don't think the citizens of those countries are. I don't think they want any of this. But these people running things, what do you got inside of you? What would want absolute annihilation of life? Spirit? The soul? Love? Protection? Care for people? Careful. Anything that would want to destroy life is definitely of the evil nature. For whatever. What is so valuable on this planet that you're going to kill someone for? There isn't anything. Nothing. Because the most valuable thing on this planet is being alive. Because without it, nothing else gets to have value. The fact that these things can get into people and force them to forget that big chunk of common sense is pretty fascinating and shows you how absolutely cunning and clever they are. And they give not a fig for you. Right? Now, are they aliens? Let's just put it this way. The energy that they throw at you is pretty fucking alien to you. That's what freaks you out. What the fuck is that? The hair on the back of the neck stands up. Fucking all of a sudden death is like, there's weird shit running through your room. It's like, yeah. Of course. It's just to get off on that. Right? And what does it take for a human being to defy that? To stand up to that and go, yeah, I know. Yeah, you want to exacerbate all kinds of conflict and chaos. I'm not going to let you. If I'm going to have conflict in my life, I'm choosing it. I'm not letting it just well up inside of me out of nowhere. I will choose it. If there's a battle to be had, I will choose the battle myself. And what self is that? The one that is not embedded with identities. Right? The silent one. The one that knows that there's times to do things and there's times not to. I was talking to a friend of ours the other day. He called me in the morning, talking about how his mother-in-law moved back into the house. Oh my God, this shit. His mother moved into the house. It's his wife's mother-in-law. That's not a good relationship. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, you guys should carry on as you do. And just carry on as you would if she wasn't there. Right? He's like, but what do I do? I'm like, if you don't know what to do, maybe there's nothing for you to do. You want this to end now, but to end a conflict prematurely might kick up a whole lot more. If you want this conflict to be done so you can get back to peace, let it play out. Just let it play out. It's fine. As long as no one gets too crazy, too violent, too dangerous, let those things play out. So just go about your business as you would, and don't regard what commands she wants to make in your house. Right? And he was like, damn, dude, I need to hear that. So yeah, stand your ground. You have respect for your mother? Yeah. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Well, let her know whose house she's in. Right? And just own up to it. Sometimes, our parents need to, and us as parents, I'm a parent, you have to be told by your children that the way things might need to be done. Right? Because it's their world, not yours. Right? What did you bring them up for? To give the world to them. Here, it's your world now. Right? And sometimes they're going to have advice for you that's better than you could ever get. And I find that in a relationship that has respect, in a relationship that has understanding, and a relationship where you can actually be present and aware and consciously there, willfully there, those demons can't touch those spots. They can't come in. They might play around a little bit. They can't do anything. Right? And you can start to learn a little bit more. So, like the way I was raised, I didn't raise my daughters the same way. I chose to do it differently. Right? And they turned out to be awesome. They're doing it differently than I did with them. And I get to watch this progression, an evolution of better parenting as time goes by. Right? You know, because in order for this trauma to end, it's got to stop with somebody. Right? And I think our generation and the generations below us are called to do that. I think that's really what we're feeling as evolutionary pressure. It's like, it's time to move on. That, you know, if we keep going at the pace we're going, this whole fucking planet is going to be automated, online, and fucking regulated and ruled by assholes. So it's not like, let's get in ships and go somewhere else. You're not solving any problems. And I know this is a stretch. To move beyond this dimension in a conscious manner. And how does one get there? Through silence. Uninterrupted silence and a peace that won't be compromised for a thought. When you can hold that peace without compromising it for a thought, well, there's the doorway, right? Well, when do you step through? When you're called, right? When you are called through, you'll hear it like a trumpet, and you'll move through. Sometimes you'll have to go back and forth a few times, right? Because there's got to be a connection between the two. Those two worlds are dancing together. The spirit world and the physical world are in a cosmic dance together. It's the bride and the bridegroom, so to speak, right? And to learn how to balance those out, there has to be a bridge between the two. So there will be, you know, it even says in the Bible, many shall go back and forth, and knowledge will increase. Right? But you don't own that knowledge. And the mind doesn't own that knowledge. And if you take that knowledge and try to build an identity out of it, you have got bigger problems than you would ever want to deal with. You cannot have an identity take ownership of any of this. The true identity inside of you will always, what did Carlos say? Will always be a slave to infinity. That you want freedom? Freedom is having no choice. It's being a slave to infinity. Well, slave to what? To life, what's looking out of your eyeballs. That infinite thing that keeps all of this in check. And keeps it from going so far off the rails that we can't come back. But there's going to be, you know, it's time for us to end these traumas because these traumas are beginning to splinter out. They're beginning to fragment. Now there's people running around with multiple identities. Unbelievable identities, magical thinking identities, false identities, and it's just confusing everyone. How can you have peace when you can't trust what you're even looking at anymore? That would disturb it right away, right? So it's like the world outside is not as important as you think it is. The interior world is where the power is to be able to get through, to see this world for what it is, right? To see where the influences actually are. The fact that people are starting to recognize that a lot of these musical talents are just nasty people. Nasty people, and there are so many of them. And at the heights of power, at the heights of fame, at the height of celebrity, yeah, there's some nasty sons of bitches up there. Right? And what are we taught to do? Here's you know, we talk about what dark sorcery is. Here's a good indicator. Okay, take someone, well, let's not just name names because take any one of these, let's just say a music star. Okay? See what they're doing. And then you get to hear what they're doing, which is shocking at best. What is it inside that happened that put it inside of people to see that person in a positive light and to instill in them positive attributes when they don't even fucking know the person? Right? And that's our society is really plagued by this. Right? That we give these attributes to people we don't even know. Right? And then it's like, oh, where are these attributes that we're giving them that they don't actually possess, but we just put it on them? That's the celebrity shine. It isn't them. It's all the people glorifying them. right? So what is it inside of the human that causes them to glorify someone else and to pay attention to someone else's life so much that they neglect their own? Right? And where does that glorification actually belong? Right? It belongs with you. Anything, what should be glorified in you is what's animating your body, what is beating your heart, right? What is in the air you breathe, what becomes you. There you go. That should have all the glory, right? That should be glorified. Not a celebrity, not a businessman, not a fucking genius, not Tony Stark, not Superman. Right? I've watched this culture get absolutely wrapped up in hero fucking bullshit. Look at it. For how many years have we had movies where there's one man to save everything? We're looking for a goddamn superhero. We're looking for a savior. And it's like, that's not what it was ever about. It's about, there's traumatized family lines. And that has to be stopped, healed, so the conditioning, the behavior, the influence can stop. And you can start the line anew from a healthier place. Not to say that you're going to reverse everything immediately, but you plant the seeds of a new lineage. Right? And that to me, does that sound just completely impossible and bizarre and ridiculous? To some, I'm sure it does. But for me, that's the challenge of life. It's to seed a new lineage. To see that this one has gone astray. Why? It doesn't value what's looking out of its eyeballs. Is that everybody? No, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the culture, the society. You have to see that society is a sick joke being played on humanity. It's pushing them to the brink. People can't feed their families. People can't pay their bills. People are being talked into needing shit that they didn't know existed yesterday. And that's consuming so much attention, so much energy, so much life force. And they wonder why, I don't really feel my soul. You have no energy to. What the soul requires is your undivided attention. And there's only one in you that has that. And that's the one that actually can defy the influence of a demon. All the others, no, they're all going to play. How do you know they're there? Anxiety, confusion, fear, manipulation games, coercion games, you starting to go off track from what's true, what's has integrity, what has purpose, what has value. You just go wander into the circus, hang out in strip clubs, right? Go get fucking smashed and hear the stories of what you did next morning. Right? Well, then there's, what have you done other than re-traumatize yourself? Ultimately, is it you're judging? Am I judging that behavior? No, it's behavior. Judge it or not, it's behavior's behavior. Right? Some of it's not good, some of it's not bad. Is that a judgment? Well, I hope you have discernment to know what's what inside of yourself, right? It's very weird. I kind of feel like, a lot of us have been trained to loathe ourselves, to think poorly of ourselves, to feel always flawed and never enough. I can't be enough. Which the minute you have the idea that you're not enough, you're not going to give enough to fucking do that. You'll have like this nervous tension where you should have power to push forward. That nervous tension becomes a wall you stop at. Your own energy becomes your own prison. Right? And to me, those are the precise moments where that silent one is supposed to be the most active. Because it's the only thing that can pierce all of that, take every molecule that you're looking at and reduce it down to its energetic reality and be able to see the configurations, the patterns, the cycles, and determine what's happening. And determine what's influencing and how it's influencing it. How to know when brujeria is being played on you. How to know when someone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, pull a fast one, hoodwink you, confuse you, fool you, coerce you, manipulate you, basically terrorize you. You should know that right away. That should not be something you stumble into. Right? But the identities, the most dangerous ones inside are the people pleasers. Those identities are the most dangerous. Not for the world. The world loves them. You will get kudos left and right for being a people pleaser. But what it does to you, there's the damage. It doesn't do damage in the world. It does damage to you. And there is nowhere it says you must sacrifice yourself for this world. Right? I mean, as far as I know, what Jesus said is be in the world and not of it. Right? Be in it, not of it. Don't be so enamored of it all. Leave enough presence, enough energy, enough will, enough space, enough time that you allow what's making all this happen to be acknowledged by you. And if it has a spanking to hand you while you're acknowledging it, you don't turn it off. You take the spanking. That's the suffering. That's the cleansing. That's the purification. That's the lake of fire. That's where you go. And I understand why they use this terminology. Because you're purging an identity that's long held and that you have put on a pedestal and that you have given every ounce of your life force to, and it's done nothing but fuck your life up, but you're so in love with it and that has to go. That's a painful night. Because it doesn't come out quickly. It takes a very long time. Hell, it could take a week. It could take 5 nights of ceremony to do that, just to go through that one. Right? Feeling it in your bones, feeling it in your blood, feeling it in your brain, feeling it in your cramping leg, feeling it in your thumping eye, leaking shit out of it, feeling it in the headache you have, feeling it just in your energetic field and the loathsome feeling you have. But not being able to let go of it. Right? That's a real thing. And I think it's in those moments that you actually see how sticky these things are. And that the minute you think you got rid of it, understand that it's coming back with an army. And the last thing they want to do is give up any progress they've made. It's an advancing army that does not like losing ground. And the fact that, watching this, I have a friend in California who was talking about it. He's like, you mentioned an awakening. I said, yeah. He's like, you really think that's going to happen? You really think there's going to be an awakening? I said, well, you must be under the assumption that an awakening is a good thing. He's like, well, that's what you mean, right? Love and light. I'm like, no. For some, they wake up from a nightmare and they feel free once again. Others wake up to the mess they made while they were sleeping. Who knows who is who? That's up for the individual to decide. But sometimes the awakening is, my fucking house is a mess. There are 10,000 vagrants in here that don't fucking belong and are trashing my life, and it's time to get them out. That's the awakening. It's not, oh, we're all love and light and bliss. We're in the 5th dimension. Woo, activate my chakra, baby. No. Sometimes you wake up and it's like, I have not been genuine. I have not been myself. I have allowed things to influence me that ought not to, and have taken me to places that are going to be very hard to get out of, and I'm still stuck in situations that have to do with that I haven't quite figured out yet, but I really want to be free of this. How many times after, weekends of ceremonies, when people go home, they don't want to? I've seen that so many times. So you going to go? About time to go home? I don't want to go. Because I have to go back and face a bunch of stuff. It's like, yeah, you do. Right? You have to face yourself. You have to face how the disarray you've allowed your relationships to be in. You have to face the disarray you've allowed your home life to be in. You're very docile to be in. Your domicile, sorry.
Your house. Casa.
I've said that to people at like when the hairiness of the night is over and they're clear and you can feel that they're a little more expanded and there's a little more openness and a little more, not control over their energy, but a recognition that this energy can be used. I always, not always, but sometimes I'll be like, okay, take this moment, put yourself in your house. Pretty easy to do. Project yourself in your house. Is there something there that doesn't belong there? Is there something out of place? Is there something you're hiding from everybody else in the house? Is there too much alcohol in there? What does it feel like in there? Can you energetically sage this place? Smudge it with your own energetic presence? Is your child sleeping in their bed? What's the feeling in that room? Is it clear? Is it clean? Is it how you want it to be? Take your energy and apply it there. In a lot of ways, I think that's what praying actually is. It's willfully directing your energy to the protection, the peace, the guidance, the integrity of being for everyone you love and know. And if you have any extra, to all the people you don't know, because everybody could use it. I can be a very harsh person. I can definitely tease someone to tears. No doubt. There are certain people I will do that with. But it never means, and it will never mean, that I don't have compassion for human beings. Because what I've had to experience to understand anything about myself, which, you have to take my word for that I could actually understand what this is, what me is for myself. How hard that was. How many nights of suffering, how many dark nights of the soul, how many assaults from just fear and just terror and nefarious shit flying at you all the time. Being able to be wronged and take it again and again and again. Have shit said about you and just let it be. Don't have to get crazy about it. And just the sheer physical pain of it all. I know what that's like. There's no way I couldn't be compassionate to another human being. But my compassion is, I guess I'm just trying to really let people in on who I am. My compassion is not, it's okay. I'm not going to pet you like a kitty. I'm not going to give you a little toy like a dog to distract you. What I would rather do is stand next to you while you face those things that cause you to fucking rupture. And go ahead and be ruptured in it. And let that be seen. It's fine. So nothing wrong with that. And then, because what it does is it cracks you open to actually apply the energy you need to clear that situation. And, some people call it holding space. I don't call it that at all. How do you hold space? I don't get it. And it's not even being a sounding board for everything they want to say. It's being a silent refuge that they can look to clear all that debris so they can actually have a clearer view of how to go about this. Right? And is that something you can do with someone overnight? No. No, that's called developing relationships. Right? It's not a I go see my shaman once a year and he sets me straight. No, to me, if human beings are going to heal, you heal in relationship. You heal in relation to one another. What do you need to heal? Your relations. Right? That's a very important thing, the way we relate to one another. Right? You like the freedom to be and do and say what you want, then you need to extend that to another. You need to provide the space for them to do the same. To me, that's all I've ever wanted to do, is really just provide a space for people where if you need to come unglued, there's no better place, because no one's going to get on you for it. No one's going to throw you out for it. You don't want to do that, and you want to, play like you're doing it, eventually you get found out, and out you go. Because, who wants to play? You had enough of that. Maturity requires commitment. It requires will. It requires discipline. Right? It requires facing that evolutionary pressure and using it instead of letting yourself be abused by not using it. Because, the energy in you don't have a use for, something does. You don't want to be present in your life? Well, something else will move in. The minute you stop being present, that's when everything moves in. So when you're off in your dreamy little world and you're off in your fucking tangent, off in your magical thinking, The house is not being guarded, right? And why would you have any of that anyway? Because you don't have a real connection to what's living inside of the house. So you want out of it. Well, what you want is in it. You want out of it to see if you can find it out there. Well, it's in you, right? So you have to clean that, right? So you have to remove the wheat from the chaff, right? Harvest the diamond from the lump of coal, right? It's like decalcify your gland, damn it. Right? Yeah.
You make
decalcify your gland. Rape is good for that, yeah.
Yeah. It's you make diamonds out of coal by intense heat and intense pressure. Mm-hmm. The crucible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, I know religions out there, of course. I think, a better religion is one that requires your participation. I think if you're going to have a religion, it should require your participation. And if you decide you're going to follow Jesus, well, you better be paying attention to what he said. Right? So, if you're of a spiritual nature, and, if you're a Westerner, it's probably leaning towards Christianity, even if it is kind of New Agey. The messianic shit's got to stop. You see it all over. I mean, like even in the plant medicine community. Ayahuasca will heal the world. It's like you are trying to make a messiah out of something you barely understand. That's dangerous, right? You want everything to be messianic. No. It's when, if you're following the likes of Jesus into the glory, into the promised land.
I mean, that's how Santo Daime and Unión do Vegetal was created in Brazil, because there were people following Jesus and Catholicism, but at the same time they were drinking ayahuasca in the jungle.
Sacrament.
Yeah, so they combine these two things. It's called synchronicity. Well, they mix Catholicism with ayahuasca. So they were drinking ayahuasca, and at the same time they were singing Christian hymns and like dancing and all dressed white. And it was a different, I mean, people were sometimes vomiting during this, because they're like clapping and singing and like drinking ayahuasca. So but anyway, they create this syncretism, this mix of two different beliefs as one new.
Like an alchemy.
And, Unión do Vegetal and Santo Daime were the first churches that were allowed to bring ayahuasca into the U.S. In the 90s, in the early 2000s. Yeah. And they did it for religious purposes, but they were legally importing ayahuasca from Brazil to the U.S., to New York mostly, because they had a big church in New York.
Right.
Where a lot of brujos live, Santeria and all this Cuban and, Central American voodoo stuff. Yeah, like this thing that you have here. I mean, totems and all these sculptures and, figures are very common into this brujeria, but also like Buddhist, voodoo is, how you call it? Voodoo and, orishas and all these things from Africa and Brazil, the jambeya, I don't know, crazy names they have for these demons, deities, orishas and all this stuff. And jembele, all this in the songs, like in popular Cuban songs or like salsa songs, they are enchanting their names, And people doesn't know about this, but these are really recognized artists from Central and South America, like Shakira and all this. Shakira, she's from Colombia. She's an artist, like a singer.
Shakira, yeah.
Yeah, and she became like world famous when she put her hair like blonde and started singing in English. After she had like a rock and pop and rock, a first disc where she got popular in South and Latin America. And then she became like a famous artist. She married a football player, soccer player, very famous from Spain, Piqué. and they were together a long time. They were having kids and all this. They having all this attention, all these demons, all this egregor, all these entities were like feeding them up so much that they became like celebrities, you know? They were not just singers or football, soccer players, but they were like, you know,
Bladed.
Anyone can meet them, even if you're from Peru or from US or from the Czech Republic. I don't know.
I don't think people know what they're seeing.
So that's the thing. They don't know.
Right.
People are blind, like you say, like they're sleeping, until they wake up and they notice what the fuck is happening. You know what is really going on. So they broke up. I mean, I don't follow these things, but this is just something that happened, and it's just an example of what the jinns are. You know, this word, the jinn, it comes from Arab countries. You know,
Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, Egyptians also have the same word, you know, for Arab language.
You ever watch their exorcisms? That shit.
I was there, you know, I was in the desert and I understood more deeply what the jinns were really. Have you heard of this story of Aladdin and the lamp?
Yeah.
Aladdin.
Yeah.
Aladdin? Yeah.
So he was in the desert, he found this lamp and then he rubbed the lamp and this genius, the genie, the genie appears,
genius.
yeah. And he says, okay, give me 3 things you want, 3 desires. Tell me what you want, and I will make it happen. Yeah.
I've had voices like that come to me, like, tell me what you want. And I always say, I want you to go away. That's what I want.
In Dieta, and after Dieta, this can happen very easily. You can see the 2 paths.
Sure.
You can see the Brujo path, and you can see the Curandero path. And you can see how the Brujo path says, like, this is easy path. Follow me. I'll show you the light and the love. Yeah, and then there's the hard path. You know, like keep doing more dietas. You know, and like keep being isolated and just away from everything.
Have enough humility to give attention to God.
So yes, so it's not an easy path, but if you choose that path, I mean, you step out of really negativity in your life, because taking the easy path, taking the Brujo path, is about taking the ego path, taking all the me. I'm the curandero. I'm the healer. I'm the powerful man. I'm, you know, almighty. It's not you. It's not the ayahuasca even. It's not the medicine. It's not that you're channeling this healing space, holding space. It's more big picture than that.
It's being genuine. It's being yourself. It's being It's being able to hear what Spirit intended you to be. It's being basically, it's like once you choose the path of the soul, it's fixed. And that you can go off that all you want. You can go off into tangents and go off into bad behavior all you want to. But understand that the path of the soul, that's a fixed path. There's only one decision there. Any moment, there's only one decision. There ain't 1,000. There isn't options. There isn't opportunities. There isn't, probabilities. There isn't like I'm weighing out of 10,000 choices I could make. That's the manufactured identity. That's the ego. That's the jinn. That's
what creates anxiety in people. They cannot decide for one thing. I was talking to my friend today. She cannot make a decision in her life. She have important decisions to make, like signing a business contract. And she's like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But just to finish about this, because I come from Peru, and this being a really big problem in Peru, a lot of people doing medicine work, opening retreat centers, and it's just like making a business. My friend, she had a terrible experience. She was in Yurimaguas, near Tarapoto, in the jungle of Peru, up north, and she was in this center called Dos Mundos. Yeah, so there was like 100 people in the retreat center. Yes, they were doing ceremonies 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the night.
Sounds like a franchise.
Because they didn't have enough space in the Maloca. So
Did they have a drive-through?
What is it?
Did they have a drive-through where you could just drive, get a cup of ayahuasca?
So that's the worst part. My
Starbucks.
friend, she was there for like a month, like 4 weeks or something, and she come back to the Czech Republic, and she told me she had like terrible experience. Yeah.
But when did she decide she had the terrible experience?
Because
afterwards, or like in the middle of it?
During. And I mean, since she came, she noticed that it was not a good decision.
She couldn't leave?
she was already committed to this because her husband has been going to this place for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years in a row. So he works with this shaman. But he also have noticed how this place evolved from a normal, authentic place to a business center, like a drive-through, like you say. So the thing is, like, she had a terrible experience because of this, because she saw that it was only business, They didn't care about the people, didn't care about the dieta, supposedly dieta they were doing. There was a lot of things going on at the same time, their own dramas inside the people, because it's 100 people. Imagine, like, we have these retreats in the jungle.
No way.
We have the retreats in the jungle with 10 people, 15 people tops, like normal, like 8 people, 6 people in the ceremony. So 100 people, it was like crazy. She comes back to Czech Republic. Like 2 weeks after that, it was in July, August this year, in the summer. I saw a Facebook post. It says like one Ukrainian man kills his Russian wife in retreat center in Yurimawas. I read the link, I read the article. It was in the same retreat center that this woman from the Czech Republic
was. There's a lot of that.
I went and asked her, like, have you read this? Do you know what's happening in this place you were? I mean, I don't like to call names, but it's called Dos Mundos in Yurimawas. And
okay.
I mean, you called the name.
I mean, you can see that. I mean, it's the news. It was national news in Peru.
Sure.
It was in the news. The police took this guy. He not only killed the woman, but tear her apart.
Wow.
The story the police says is that this woman was doing a dieta in the center, and this man went to Iquitos, went to Yurimawas and buy some drugs, and then he was like on drugs and went back to the retreat center in the middle of the night and killed her with a knife and with a machete.
Wow.
Took her.
Yeah, I mean,
and this is the worst part. I go to see my friend in Czech Republic, and I tell her, and I say, yes, I know. I knew them when I was in the same center.
Oh, that couple.
Yeah, because they were doing also like 1 month dieta while she was like there. So they met. And like they look normal, but they were Russian and Ukrainian. It's also a crazy couple, The woman was from Russia and the guy from Ukraine, or I don't know, this way, And it was national news in Peru, of course, and in all these Facebook groups about ayahuasca too, because in Peru it's really a problem. Yep. In Iquitos, in Pucallpa, in Tarapoto, now in Cusco, in the Sacred Valley, even in Lima. I mean, now it's all over. It's not only ayahuasca, it's San Pedro, Huachuma. It's mushrooms. Now in Peru, mushrooms are becoming more and more popular. People are growing mushrooms and doing mushroom ceremonies or like psychotherapy assisted.
There's a lot of that going on here too.
So, but imagine, this is happening in Peru, see? And people that in Peru, they still think that ayahuasca, San Pedro, mushrooms are like drugs that drive you crazy or make you stupid or things like this.
That's like the people that aren't in the jungle, the other Peruvians.
I mean, normal people from the cities, In Peru, we have 35 million people, and 1/3 of that population is in Lima. Like in Lima, now it's overpopulated, it's 11 million people living there. So it's oversaturated with people. But mostly, and this is what we were talking the other day, mostly it's people from other cities coming to the capital because Peru is like a centralized country. So everything you need is in the capital. If you need to do some transaction or some, how you call this, like I want to do the visa to come to the US, I have to go to the embassy in Lima. So everything is centralized. If you live in Cusco, if you live in Tarapoto.
Well, if you want to fly anywhere, you got to fly to Lima first. Right?
That's also something. The airports are centralized. So every international flight comes to Cusco, that is international airport, or to Lima. In Chiclayo, where I'm from, there's international flights, but only to Panama, because there's this connection, Chiclayo, Panama, for business.
For business.
Business trips, in Panama, there's a lot of business trips.
Coffee.
You got to get that coca there somehow.
Cacao, Coconut chips.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it's being a really disaster. This, along with illegal mining. You know what is illegal mining?
Yeah.
So in Peru, there's a lot of Amazonian regions that they're doing illegal mining in the rivers.
Logging, yeah.
And they take... No, but illegal mining is worse because, to take out the gold from this, they have to mix it with mercury or other
The
stuff.
cyanide.
So, yeah, and this contaminates the rivers. And these are killing the population, and these are killing even like these communities that are like how you call it, uncontacted.
Yeah, indigenous.
Indigenous, uncontacted indigenous tribes.
They are like dying because the water is getting contaminated in their areas where it's like natural reserve areas.
Yeah, they've been coming into the towns
Because of this, yeah, and because they see, and these people like try to get to their lands and give them like money and machetes and like guns, but ask them to go, so they can keep doing this illegal mining.
Bring them the internet.
Man, it's terrible because this is creating also a prostitute ring in there. Because all these miners, all these workers that are there, they have all this money, but they're bored in the middle of the jungle. So they pay, little girls in the jungle.
We went and sat with someone. I will remain nameless.
Yeah. I will not name
He would, sir, he would be in the jungle down in the Iquitos next to a chicken processing factory, right? And he would hold ceremony for 3 hours, and that was it. So everybody's still in the medicine. He gets in his car to leave. He leaves. He just leaves you out there in the jungle. He goes back to he doesn't go back to his house. He even admitted it. He goes to the whorehouse after ceremony. I'm like, how in the hell does that even enter your mind in that space? To me, that is the most sacred. Where that medicine takes you, I mean, it can be a rough night. You have to go through some things, look at some things, be slapped around a little bit maybe. But I've always found that, when you're on the other side of that, there's nothing more sacred than that. That presence you feel, that connection you feel to all the everything, how obvious it is to you, how it makes you feel inside, the amount of presence and well-being it instills in you. There's nothing more sacred than that. I could not even imagine going, hey, I'm going to go to the whorehouse now. I mean, how in the hell does that even enter someone's mind? But it does. And there's plenty of people who get real weird like that. And I've never understood that. It's like, how do you not honor what's looking out of your eyeballs? How do you not hold what's sacred, the thing that's animating you? That is the most sacred thing there is.
I cannot do an excuse. I mean, why you do that? Because I'm not going to say like I'm not going to justify why people drink ayahuasca and then they go to a strip club or a whorehouse.
I don't even know why.
But, I will give you my perspective from my experience, being a student of the plants in Peru for a long time and meeting other students and other brujos, because there's a lot of students that they stop being students to start being brujo, because it's more easy. Yeah. You don't have to do more dietas, you don't have to do more work, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to do these flyers, this shadow work. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to just let go.
You just have to get medicine and open up a center.
I mean, you just let all these demons rape you, of course, energetically, and just possess you, and you just act as a demon, yeah? But the thing is, like, I met many of these people, and sometimes they were doing this. They were having ayahuasca in their house, and then they were out for party, in Tarapoto, in Pucallpa, name it. And it was crazy to watch what they were doing, because I was around those places, and I was watching this guy playing tricks, energy tricks with people in these discotheques, in these, clubs,
sure.
because they are drunk. They're with the low frequency levels and the low energy, and he just sucked all the energy from them. And I was watching him doing that, and I stopped him and I said, like, hey man, who are you? What are you doing here? It was 2, 3 a.m. in the morning in the streets of Tarapoto, in the jungle. What are you doing, man? I was smoking my mapacho and I saw what he was doing. Who are you? And he told me, who are you? And I say, my name is Arturo. What's your name? What do you want to know? And I was telling today, when you shake hands with a brujo, he won't give you the hand, You will give him the hand and he will say no. He won't shake hands with you. He won't let you hug you. He won't let you touch you. He will step back, and say, who are you? And he will look into your eyes, and he will know if you know. If you know, you tell him, I was talking to this guy from Romania. They're gypsies, you know. They don't like to use this word gypsies, but it's what they are, you know, gypsies. In Peru, in South America, there's a lot of gypsies too. Gitanos is how we call it, gitanos. When you find a gypsy and she's trying to read your hand, you know, your palm reading, and you tell her, we don't read hands between gypsies. Yeah. I mean, if you're a gypsy and I'm a gypsy, you're not going to read my hand, you know. So they don't touch you. They know who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you hold your own, you won't fall prey to any of that.
I mean, it's just a way, you know, to recognize each other. Like Illuminatis, you know, like people who have special handshakes or have special ways to introduce themselves or put positions in their hands.
Self-importance.
It's just patterns, you know, it's just religion. It's just a symbolism. It's just totems.
Yeah.
It's just...
When people have self-importance in them, I mean, that's ripe for the demon.
Because they have inside this masonry, inside of these logias, how you call this, logias? There are degrees.
Yeah.
There are degrees.
Yeah, you're talking about the Freemasons.
I mean, there are different names for them. You know, the Rosicrucians,
the Illuminati,
the Illuminati.
Yeah.
I mean,
Knights
they have
of York
a lot of names. You know, Harvard University or like all these presidents from the
Skull
US.
and Bones. And
Yeah, I mean, they have their clubs, you know, boys clubs.
and they're ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. They're all ego power. They're all brujo shit. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know it. And most people don't have a clue about this.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even realize what all these symbols mean.
Right.
They don't even realize what is all behind curtains.
Right.
In the government, in the U.S. government, that is one of the most, I mean, powerful governments in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and now it's going into Donald Trump's hands, you know? I mean, I don't care too much about politics, really. Firstly, because I'm not from here, you know, I'm from Peru, and I'm living in the Czech Republic, so I don't care who is the president in the U.S., but I have to care because we are living in a globalized world now. And also I have to care because I care about Bitcoin. And you know what's happening on November 5 this year, Tom? You know what's happening November 5?
Say.
Trump won the elections. Bitcoin price was 60, 69, going to 70. November 6, it was 70. November 7, it was 72. November 8, November 9, it went to 80. It went to all-time high 90, 92, 95. I mean, we're in 100,000 now. I don't care about politics. Trump won the elections, but I care about Bitcoin price. I mean, sometimes I check the price. But, I mean, it was great. You know, for my friends in the Czech Republic, they were really against Trump. Most of them are like, I don't know, socialist. It's left-handed. I don't know how to call them. Woke people. I don't know. In Europe, we don't use these words, you know. In Europe, we don't use these words. But they didn't like about Trump. And I told them, I don't care about Trump. I care about Bitcoin. And, you know, I don't want to live in a centralized government country. That's why I'm not in Peru. That's why I'm not in the US. That's why I mean, the Czech Republic is not the best example for this. But their story, I mean, there's a new nation. Only from 1989, they stopped being Czechoslovakia, and there started to be two different countries, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Very small countries. Only 11 million people live in the Czech Republic. Like the population for Nima is in the whole country. You can go from north to south, west to east in 3 hours by car driving.
Yeah.
So it's different realities, but I think it has a great potential for Bitcoin. Awareness, at least educational, because many people in the Czech Republic, they still think now, 2024, they still think Bitcoin is a scam.
Sure.
Bitcoin is a pyramid.
Well, the dollar is the pyramid, but you know.
Of course. I mean, we can see it on your shirt. No?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is they don't trust. They don't trust anything that comes from America. I mean, they were living in communism for so long. They couldn't buy jeans. They couldn't go outside the Czech Republic. The borders were closed. For them, it was like a luxury to go out of their country. And they didn't knew about TV or radio or, I mean, only communist stuff, you know. So they are a new nation. They're just, the new generation is starting to be more aware. Like Czech Republic is full with IT guys. People doing coding and programming and video games and like all this IT stuff. They're in Prague. They're like from all over the world, not only from the Czech Republic, but it's like an epicenter, like a hub.
The Silicon Valley of Europe.
Exactly, the Silicon Valley of Europe.
They're going to add to the madness of the world.
Because it's Central Europe, so it's in between Germany, it's in between Austria, it's in between Poland, and all these countries.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Ukrainian people there.
Everybody wants to be part of the madness.
I mean, it's like a gold mine,
Hey.
For me, at least, after living there for 6-7 months, I think the Czech Republic is a great country to live. Also, it's like the seventh safest country in the world, and very organized, very clean. The transportation is very easy to understand. Take buses and trams and trains, and I love it there.
Yeah. Is that where you're going to go to?
I'm going back in February, It's kind of my house now because I have a job there. I have a teaching school there.
Mm-hmm.
I have some business now, a Bitcoin business.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have friends. I mean, people I know. People who has my things. We were talking to my friend Natalia. She has my things. I couldn't bring with me to the US because I was not scared, but just cautious about what can I bring in my backpack from the Czech Republic to the US. But I was really surprised how free was the border, like how easy it was for me to come in. I was really worried. I asked,
pretty easy here now. You can pay. You get paid to get to come.
I mean,
well,
I asked Tom to sign me an invitation letter just to be sure that if they ask me anything, like what are you going to do here? How long are you going to stay? Or blah blah blah. I can just say, I'm visiting my friends. I'm spending the holidays there, and that's it, But it was so easy. They just say, come in, yeah, go. This is your ticket. Give it back when you go outside. Okay, I pick up my backpack, and I was out. Yeah, smoking a mapacho outside the Denver airport, after coming from Europe, I'm from Peru, a third world country. Yes, it's very amazing for me. It's really like a dream come true.
yeah. To see
So I feel honored to be here with you, Chris, Tom, Wally, Isaac, and Angela Crew. I mean, I just met you last year, but it's been so intense time living with you, like in the jungle of Peru, like bringing you the food in the morning every day for a month.
Yep.
And taking care of each other, I mean, I did the same thing for Wally and for Isaac, and the same for Tom, and I will do the same for
Jenny,
anyone, for Jenny, for Angela, for anyone, because I love this, and this is how I learned how to heal myself. Because in healing myself, I can heal the world. I mean, we can all do our share, and in this work, I think we have to be honored that we are able to do it. We have to feel grateful that this is a sacred work. And we have to be responsible. Sometimes it's not easy to be responsible about this because you say, I don't want this responsibility. I don't want to know anything about this. I don't care. I want to live normal life. I just want to have, my car, my house, my dog, and my wife, and my kids, and that's it.
Well, there's certain people that's life. That's going to be the entirety of it.
I know.
And then there's those that it's like I don't know. It's like, I think Don Juan said it best, that there's people that just the world holds no interest to them anymore. What mankind is doing over and over and over again. It's not that they don't honor it. It's fine, but it doesn't hold the importance it once did. And what holds importance is the relationship of how you feel within. It's the, discovering the kingdom of heaven within you. That's not, I don't think everyone's going to do that. I don't think the whole population is going to rise up and do that. I just don't. But, there will be those that's the thing of interest to them. And yeah, you'll be marginalized. You'll be told you're crazy. I mean, you'll have to put up with a whole lot of things and people viewing you in a way that might not be that real. But there are those people that they're more interested in what's beating their heart, what's looking out of their eyeballs, what gives them well-being, what is peace, what is understanding, what is maturity, what is courage, what is strength, what is fortitude, what is enlightenment, what is, and that's what interests them. Not what kind of car can they buy, what kind of jeans do I need to wear, how should I look when I go out at night, am I doing the right pose for my Instagram post? It's not about any of this. So like these things on the wall, I mean nothing. It's art. It's like if it has any power in it, it belongs there, not on someone else's wall. Because if it has any shit emanating out of it, it ain't touching me. So it's just a decoration. Maybe in someone else's house, it's like fucking cursed. But the protection one gets from spirit is determined by how clear their connection to that is. And that connection will always be determined by, do you follow the guidance of the soul to clean up the behavior that keeps you separated from what that relationship is. That's really the whole thing. And that is not, there are no gurus there. There are no leaders there. There are no, wiser than others. There's each person on their path. That's it. There is nothing more than that. No one's taking anyone home. You choose to behave according to what life tells you, to have peace, to have love, to have understanding, to have awareness, motivation in what you're doing, a sense of purpose in what you're doing. And that's the guidance from the soul. That is not something you're going to conjure up in your head. Will Bitcoin save the world? Let's put it this way. It'll level the playing field a little bit. It'll give people access, possibly give them access to resources they might need in the future, in the very near future, possibly. Resources they don't have yet. So there's a lot of reasons for that to be held up, because the common man can, get some, harvest some wealth out of that. Right? And the fact that it's secure and it's easy to be divisible and everybody gets to see it and all the nodes have to agree for this to be real. It can't be messed with. Yeah, that's great, because your dollar is being messed with all the time. You don't have any control over how much value your dollar has. But, the Bitcoin community, the people that are really in it, they get to decide where this value sits. And do I think it's valuable? Yeah, but ultimately, we're beyond that. Where we're going, where humanity is aimed at, is a whole different vibratory frequency of life. And, whether anyone's ready for that or not, it's coming. And will it, if it's kind of like Neanderthal, right? Neanderthal couldn't evolve. That's why he's not around anymore. He reached his max point. And I think there's going to be people who've reached their max point and they might just explode in a million pieces.
Well, just to finish what you were saying just now, because I think it's important, and I'm doing a course at the moment, it's online course about master in energy healing. But what this master was teaching us was exactly this, I'm not teaching disciples, I'm teaching masters. I mean, you're doing these masters, so you become masters. And you're not going to teach other people so they become your disciples, your students. You're teaching other people to also become masters of their lives. So you have to set your mind in this way. You're not asking me what to do. You have to fully acknowledge yourself and your intuition and know what you have to do. You're not coming to me, oh, master, what I have to do now? Like, you don't come to ask me this, You ask yourself, because you are the master of your life. And if you want to be the master of other people, you're not going to be their master. You're going to
be a fucking brujo.
I mean, you're just going to be someone that is guiding them so they discover their own mastership.
I've always said, when someone asks me, what is it, like when you were with Carlos, like, what is an apprenticeship? I said, what it actually is you make a lot of mistakes and they don't tell you to leave. That you get a chance to learn from your mistakes. You don't get just 86 because you made one.
But they'll get pointed out. For sure.
They'll point it out and you'll be belittled and you will definitely feel like you're being watched.
I mean, that happened
doing the right thing.
With Egner, I started my apprenticeship with Egner long time ago, the first time I met him. He knew that I was doing dietas and he knew I was helping with the translation in this other center. I mean, I don't like to name names, but it's the Garden of Peace in Tarapoto.
You seem to like to name names.
You seem to like name
You
names.
say this, but you don't do
don't.
what you say. You don't.
Yeah.
I
You're
mean-
naming names.
Well, anyway, what I'm saying...
It must just be who he is.
It must be who he is.
I'm just
We'll
saying,
keep pointing it out.
there was a moment in my relationship with Egner after we met and all these things that he came to me after or during the ceremony, like after we finished with the limpieza and all this. He came to me and he says, Arturo, I want to tell you something. He was mareado, me too.
Yeah.
We were pretty, it was
In the
pretty
medicine.
strong medicine. And he comes to me and he says, Arturo, I want you to be my disciple. And I say, like, disciple? You mean like a student? Yes, apprentice. And I say, okay. I thought I was already your apprentice. And he says, no. But I mean, we're going to do some work together, spiritual work. And I say, okay, but you have to explain me tomorrow morning what you mean, because right now I still feel, the medicine. But I get what you're saying. Thank you, Egner, You're a nice guy. I like you. I trust you also. And I see all the power you have during ceremonies. He says, yes, I know, Arturo. I mean, I can see you too, and you're a good help, during ceremonies. So, because I was doing what Egner does with Maestro Enrique during the ceremonies, like he helps people and all these things, I was doing that with Egner, I was helping him during ceremonies and all this. But we were having fun too, we were like, I was learning from him, but we were like also growing together in this place.
That's how that works, yeah.
Because Egner, he felt really like recognized, but because he was like the main shaman or the main curandero in this place. And I felt also like a lot of knowledge coming from him because I was translating everything he was saying to the people,
Right. Like with my relationship with Carlos, it's like, when people ask what was that like, it's like, was it an apprenticeship? Were you learning? I said, I was learning a lot. But inevitably what it was a very deep, genuine friendship. It's inevitably what it is. It's not, oh, master, it's not like a young grasshopper, you shall do, There is none of that. There's really no pattern you're following. It's pretty spontaneous. It's pretty right there.
We go back to what is relationships, what you were saying at the beginning, is human relationships. How you build a human relationship with this person that has a lot of knowledge and have access to even more knowledge. So there's a circle. The things you know is part of the circle. The things you don't know is big part of the circle. But then there's things that you don't know that you don't know. Yeah, and when you meet these kind of people that have access to things that you don't know,
right,
and then you know that there are things that they don't know, so you can access to see what you don't know that you didn't know. You knew, I don't know how to say in English, but you know what I mean. So when I met Egner and we started this apprenticeship, I don't know how to call it, but mentorship, he teach me a lot in everything we did. And they were also asking me, like, how do you learn from this guy? I mean, what do you do? Like, you stay with him all day? Or like, how is this learning coming from? And it comes in different ways, like when we prepare medicine together, he's showing me and he's letting me like take pictures and like take video of how he prepares different medicines, for dieta, not only ayahuasca, but other plant medicines.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's also teaching me like what songs some Icaros means, because they're not only in Spanish, but they also use different words. So he was guiding me in this way, We were living in the same house. He was living in the first floor and I was living on the top. And we were sharing a lot of time together. It was not only friendship, like relationship between, two persons, but also it was like a human relationship, like a family. Yeah. Because also he was coming from Pucallpa to Tarapoto and I was coming from Chiclayo to Tarapoto. So we were out of our house, We were all about foreigners in this place. So it was great relationship we built up together. But there was one night in one ceremony that it was very clear to me when I saw Egner singing en Icaro and I saw someone in his back, tall person with a hat and with a kushma, with the dress in this, and with a chacapa. And Egner was sitting there, singing. And this other guy was behind him, like a shadow, but very big one, and also singing. And then I saw like rays coming out of this guy and coming out of Egner and like going on all over the Maloca, and we felt like electrified, like, what is happening, you know? And I asked Egner after the ceremony, I asked like, hey man, I saw this guy behind you, and like you were singing, but this guy was also singing, and I heard his voice. It was very similar like yours, but it was somehow different, like more deep, you know? Who was this guy? And he said, yeah, he's my brother. He's Enrique. He's my master. And I say, what do you mean? I mean, he never mentioned Enrique before that.
Right.
I was with Egner like, I don't know, 5-6 months or maybe 1 year almost. And he never mentioned about Enrique and about Santuario and about any of this, you know. I only knew that he came from Honoria, from Pucallpa, but nothing else, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when he told me this, and after I saw this in ceremony, I was like, so when are we going to meet your brother? And he told me, well, you're welcome to come to Santuario, you know, but we're working here now, so... I mean, there will be a time for this. This happened in 2015, 2016, so some years ago. And it was not until 2022, so 2 years ago, that I came to Santuario for the first time. After all this time, you know, I lost contact with Egner for some time. I reconnected with him through Facebook, of course, because he was sending me a lot of friend requests and messages. And... we finally get in touch, and that's how I end up in Santuario. And I met Enrique. But the first time I met Enrique and Belisario, his other brother, it was a crazy situation. I don't know if I can share this in the podcast, but I was coming from Tarapoto to Lima by plane, and Lima, Pucallpa. Because my original plan was going by bus. From Tarapoto to Pucallpa is like 15 hours by bus. But there was political problems in Peru, and the roads were closed, and it was terrible. People in Machu Picchu, they couldn't go out of to Cusco because the roads were blocked. The train wasn't working. Right. You know, it was really chaotic time in Peru. Yeah, 2 years ago, after COVID, you know, after this time. So, and I was going from Tarapoto to Pucallpa, and it was not possible because of the buses. And Egner was calling me because there was a group from the UK, from England, coming from England and Ireland and this place, to go in January. And I say, I cannot go because of these political problems. They say, like, but you have to come. And I was like, what can I do now? So I know my sister, she has like miles on the plane. So I told her, I send you the money, buy me a ticket to go from Tarapoto to Lima, and then Lima to Pucallpa. Again, centralized country. We cannot take a plane from Tarapoto to Pucallpa. Now you can take a small plane, but it was not possible in that moment. I go to Pucallpa. The people from the UK was already there. They was staying for 2 weeks, 15 days, and it was day number 4 or 5, and it was chaotic situation because there was a woman supposedly to be helping Maestro Enrique with the translation. I think she was French woman or something, but she was a crazy lady, you know. From I mean, she was from France, but she was living in Pucallpa, and she was a crazy lady. And Maestro Enrique told her, like, you have to go, you know, because she was supposed to translate to this group from the UK in English into Spanish because they didn't speak any Spanish. Right. And they wanted to know what Dieta was about because they were coming all the way to Peru to do Dieta, but they didn't know what was Dieta about, you know? Right. So there was only one guy that had come before to Santuario, so he knew and everything. But the rest of the people was like, no clue what they were doing. So this woman took some money because she charged them, you know, for the translation services and whatnot. I don't know what else. Some massage, maybe. And then she left Santuario to Pucallpa with the money, with the things. And then the guys that were doing Dieta in Tambo, they came back to Santuario because they couldn't stand the mosquitoes and they couldn't stand the heat. And it was a terrible situation. And that's when I came to Santuario by myself, you know. I arrived from Lima to Pucallpa, Pucallpa to Honoria, and I didn't know that Pucallpa to Honoria was like 2-3 hours by car. Right. And there was also road blocks on the way, so it took us like 4 hours to go from Pucallpa to Honoria. And when I got to Honoria, it was like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. in the night. It was all dark. Boats weren't going to Santuario. It was my first time there. It was a small village, you know.
Yeah, it's a creepy village.
Yeah. In the night, imagine arriving there like 8
Just
p.m.
the vultures that like to hang out on the light pole spook me. It's like, oh my
and
God.
I was like, where am I? I'm calling Egner. He doesn't pick up the phone. I keep calling. Nada. I go to some hotel there.
Right.
You know, there's
In the
a hostel
square,
in the
yeah.
square.
Yeah.
And I say, do you know Enrique Paredes, Egner Paredes? You know them? They work with medicine. Say, yeah, Enrique, yeah. You have to go that way. It's small village, you know.
Right,
Just,
yeah.
you have
His
to
house
walk.
is at the edge over there.
I went like 5-10 minutes there,
Right.
walking with my backpacks and everything, and I saw Egner's daughters.
Uh-huh.
It was they were with the light and they were playing like in the entrance of the house. And I said, Lucia, you know, Shani, and they, Arturo, they come to me, they hug me and this, and I'm like, where is Egner? He's not here. He's not at home. He is out. He's in Santuario. Like, where is he? And he says, no, he went out. It's some baptism, you know, some nephew, some kid baptism, you know, Catholic baptism. Something like this, you know. Or it was like Belisario's birthday party or something. The thing is like, I'm talking to them and my Egner comes with the tuk-tuk, you know, with a bike. And Maestro Enrique and Belisario are in the back. They come from this reunion, family meeting. And they're like a little happy, you know. And I was like, I'm here, Egner, you know. I told you I was coming here. I'm here. I say, oh, Arturo, yes, oh, so nice to see you. We didn't see each other like years before that. We just messaging on Facebook and calling on the phone. And it was my first time meeting Enrique in Belisario. And like, yeah, he's my brother, Enrique. He's my older brother, Belisario. Right. Oh, hello, nice to meet you. He said, okay, let's go. We'll put you in the hotel. And I say, okay. So they put me in the hotel, in this hostel in the square. Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah, we're going to Santuario tomorrow morning. We have ceremony. And I say, okay. And that's how I met them. And we went to Santuario the next day and we had ceremony that night with this group from the UK. The group from the UK were like crazy because they were by themselves in Santuario while Maestro Enrique and Belisario, they all went to Honoria, you know, to this family reunion. And and they were by themselves in the tambos, in this with this guy Manuel, this one of the guys who was taking care of Santuario. We know him well, yeah. And when I arrived there, like they couldn't believe like I speak English, you know. Right. So when Belisario was really impressed when he saw me speaking to the guys from the UK like in English, and then translating into Spanish. He was like, "How is this possible? Like, who is this man? You know, like C-3PO, you know, in Star Wars. Like C-3PO he's a translator, you know. He knows all the languages from the, you know. And there's R2D2, you know. So they say like, are you like a robot or what? And I was like, no, I'm just learning English and I can translate and understand what they're saying. But the guys from the UK, they were surprised I could understand their English because some of them were from Manchester and some of them were from Ireland, so they speak Irish. And their English were like not the best. I mean, it was like barely...
Different accent.
Yeah, barely English, you know? Mostly sounds. But I could understand them because it was not language what we were talking, you know? And we had ceremony that night. And 4 of them decided that they didn't want to do dieta, that they were not prepared for this. And the rest were just chilling in Santuario, so we did the ceremony that night. It was my first night in Santuario. It was my first experience with Maestro Enrique, my first ceremony with him, with Egner, and with these people from the UK. And it was really intense. You know, I was coming from Tarapoto, and in Tarapoto I had some problems. I think I shared this with you about these people who were chasing me, people from the US. Yeah. Serious people. Jokers, really, but I mean...
Jokers with bad intentions.
Yeah. So anyway, I was coming from all this, and I was coming to Santuario to heal. I was coming to Santuario to do dieta. I was coming to Santuario to work because I needed. And I was coming with this intention. And we didn't have really time with Maestro Enrique to talk about this beforehand, I just arrived there and we were like, okay, we're having ceremony tonight. So it was a great ceremony. It was amazing, not only for me, but for the people there. This guy Shmu is not his real name, but Shmu. And the other guys there, Paul. I'm not going to name them, but
I know. It's really weird.
Yeah, this is going to be a theme with you.
But this guy from Ireland, Ian, we make a really special relationship with him. Anyway, it was really intense. They stayed 2 weeks in Santuario. They were very grateful that I arrived and explained them many things that they didn't understand
Yeah,
at all.
It's helpful. Yeah.
And also they didn't understood what happened to this woman, this French woman that took the money and went to Pucallpa and never came back,
There's the stories that come out of Iquitos. I mean, there's centers where they didn't take care of one lady really well enough, so she ended up running down naked down the tarmac, chasing an airplane. Another guy swinging from a cabin. One of the centers had their master shaman leap off a building in Lima. I mean, the thing about that plant medicine, world is that it's not a place. It's not a place of entertainment, right? It's not. Oh, I think I can do this. You kind of need to have a reason. You kind of need to have like a determination to see through your confusions, to see through all that. I remember when we went down there one time, we were there and there was another group there. So Enrique's having ceremony every single night. We're doing one night and the other group, they were from all over the place, England and all over. They were doing the next night. So we were there for their first, one of their nights. And it was the first night we were there. It was their night. So we're all listening. It's just nuts, man. People are freaking the fuck out, all kinds of shit. And then we go in the next night. Well, they're all in the cabins. They can hear our ceremony, right? I don't know, 6 or 7 of them. Can we sit with your group? Yeah, talk to Enrique. If he's cool with it, yeah, you guys can sit with us. And they were like, man, that's so much better sitting with you guys. It's because, you got to have the courage, and the fact that I think the people that, when we take people down there, 9 out of 10 of them are prepared for it. I had one guy, remember the one dude that shows up from Texas, he goes down to the jungle with us. And after a night of ceremony, he looks over at me. I'm like, how you doing? He's like, I feel like I'm in advanced ayahuasca school. I said, well, it's because you are. That's where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you find how much skin you have in the game and how much you need to have. Because, ultimately, the stakes are high. Your life force is yours, and it has been being drained from you. Your well-being has been dropped to the floor. Your sense of, self is can be confused at best. Yeah, I mean, it shows you where your discrepancies are. And will everybody figure that out and behave accordingly to their soul? No, they just won't. There's some that think they know what it's about, go into it, and don't really want to do that work. I mean, I've seen that a lot where what they saw was too overwhelming for them to engage. And it's like with those people, you just try to get them to a state where they can accept that they had that experience, and they might want to go back to a more basic life. It's like and those that do it to heal, there's that too. But I think there's also the people that, okay, I've healed, but I saw something very interesting in there, something very meaningful, very valuable within my own being. And I think those people are cut out for those deeper explorations. I figure you hold a ceremony, you have to be able to have the right energetic to really support and help everybody, depending on no matter where they're at, whether they're higher up on a rung somewhere or this person's just dealing with trauma from the past. You have to be able to have a cohesive energy that serves everyone in the room. And the ones that freak out, well,
it's okay.
No, it's not okay. I mean, it's okay.
It's okay. I mean,
you're just two bad choices from them. I mean, everybody's
but the
two
thing
bad
is
choices away from that.
What's happening in Peru now is what's called ayahuasca tourism.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people just go for the experience.
Yeah.
They don't know really what they're getting into.
Right.
And once they're sitting in ceremony, they say, "Oh, wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
What I'm doing? You know, like what is happening? I want to stop. I want to stop this. I mean, we talk about it beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
You already drink this, so it's not going to stop. Like it's not like
No, you're going to ride this out.
so."
It's over when it's over.
So when people comes with this wrong idea of what this work is, what is ayahuasca really about, I mean, it's a tool that is a vehicle that can take you from point A to point B. I mean, you can go from point A to point B by walking, you know? I mean, if I come from the Denver airport to here, I can go walking and I can be here like, I don't know, in 1 week. No, I can go by bike. I can, you know, I can go by car. I can go by plane. If I have a helicopter or if I have a jetpack, you know, it's the vehicle. So if you're going from point A to point B, but you don't know where point B is, and you're taking ayahuasca, this is a strong and potent vehicle. So you're not going to be to point B. You're going to be outside there, and you don't know where you're going. That's why it's so important about also the dosage and the right preparation of the medicine. Because when there's people mixing ayahuasca, tobacco, and chacruna, and then putting datura, and they're putting chuchuwasi, and, you know, all these things into the mixture. I was with a guy who put 32 plants into the ayahuasca. A complete mess up, because it's like taking a bus, you know? You take a bus from point A to point B. So you buy the ticket to this bus. The bus is this vehicle. But if you buy the ticket to go to point B and then to point C, you cannot take a plane going to Denver and to Vegas at the same time. Or you go to one place or you go to another.
Yeah.
It's not possible in the physical realm to do that. But when you drink ayahuasca and you drink mushrooms and you smoke marijuana at the same time, I mean, you can travel, of course, if you're able to, or you can crash really hard into the depths of realm that you don't even want to know about. So for people that are not prepared for this and they drink ayahuasca thinking that it's just like LSD or it's just like taking, I don't know, MDMA or some mushrooms or some things that they have experienced in the past. Some people, it's the first time trying a psychedelic and they try ayahuasca for the first time. I mean, I was talking about this friend of Tom. I'm not going to name her, of course.
Let's see if you do it this time.
I do it. I will do it.
No, don't. Okay,
no, but she was over 60. I think she was 64. I'm not going to disclose her age also, but the thing is like she couldn't make the trip from no. But hear me, she couldn't make the trip from the river, from the boiling river to Santuario. It's like 20-minute walks. You know, the shortcut, not the long, but the short. We were like lucky to have the shortcut. I do it in 10, 20 minutes walking fast, you know, even with my backpack. I told her this. I explained this to her, very detailed. She took 2 hours. She was stepping like 5 steps and stopping. And she was like, I have a heat stroke. I have like, I'm sweating. I'm dehydrated. And like, we are just in the beginning of the trail, you know, we still have like, I don't know, 1 kilometer. It's just 1-2 kilometers from the river to Santuario. I know it's a hill. I know it's in the jungle. I know, but I told her this beforehand. I mean, after this, when we were back in Pucallpa in Manish, she told me, you were not honest about the trip there. Like, you told me about the truck and the boat, but you didn't say that the truck is going to be so hard on me. And I was like, I'm sorry. I mean, I know you are older woman and maybe fragile, but I was very clear. I was very honest. You can see the messages on WhatsApp, you know. You cannot take medication the day we're having ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like, you know, want to do it their way.
Yeah, but it's not the way.
Right. Trust me, I know.
Maestro Enrique,
yeah, I get it.
We were in the ceremony. Maestro Enrique was pouring the ayahuasca, and she called her and she asked me. I mean, she was in front of him. He was about to give him the medicine, and he asked me, because he didn't speak Spanish. He asked me, Arturo, ask her if she took medication today. I mean, I guess she didn't, because we talked about it beforehand. But sorry. Kristen, Okay, sorry.
What is it with you, man?
I don't know. We're going to have a big talk about this.
Sorry, I say sorry. Did you took medication?
There's a nut to crack here.
There is.
I mean, you can always edit these things.
Really?
No, this
is live.
Okay, so I told her like, "Hey, have you took medications today?" And she told me, "Yes, because you told me I can." And I say, "I told you not on the same day of the ceremony, you know." And Master Enrique was very clear about this. No, but it was like a misunderstanding. So Master Enrique told him, but just to be safe, you're not going to drink medicine tonight.
I mean, until you're really clear about what it is you're doing, yeah, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to get in situations that you're not really capable of handling. I mean, that's just going to be common among people. I mean,
she make all this trip.
Sure, but that's not the first time. I mean, there's been plenty. Guys, just go through the stories. I mean, the stories I've heard over 30 years, people just, going down there expecting one thing and take the medicine and realize it isn't what they thought it was, and and all the stuff that happens after that. I mean, yeah, that's part of why you have to really have your head on straight if you're going to even consider giving that to another human being.
Like, you mean serving ayahuasca?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, is it a good thing to do? Yeah, it's necessary. But you also have to have some discernment on who you're going to serve.
There's a lot of people that they do a retreat, a diet, or they just go to Peru 2-3 times and they think they're, I don't know, somehow.
I watched it happen. I watched it happen in Santuario.
And they
two people that were going there, were asking for Enrique's blessing to serve medicine. They've maybe been there 2 times. And he said no, and what'd they do? They broke off and started their own center. I mean, this happens all the time. And that's the thing is until there's maturity in people, this is going to happen. This is it's a behavioral issue. It has nothing to do with whether they're prepared or not. It's really a behavioral issue. If you cannot keep yourself in check, if you cannot face the adversity you've decided to put yourself in, then you probably need to reconsider what you're doing. And sometimes people just, I remember there was one woman that early on we were going to Santuario. She found out we were going. She didn't want to go, and then she calls us one day, and I want to go. It's like, well, what made you change your mind? Because you seemed awfully turned off by it. She was Russian. She says, well, I've had you guys checked out, and if anything happens to me, you'll be killed. Right? So she ends up going down there. She takes the medicine the first night. Not 5 minutes later, actually, she's like, because the only one that she was, really knew was Tom. Tom, I need you, Tom. I can't breathe. And I'm sitting there going, well, you're obviously breathing if you're talking, so I don't understand what that is. But they had to take her out. They stuck her in a cabin, and she just, sweated it out all night in there. And then the next day, she walked around there saying they poisoned. That this is poison. They're poisoning us, and trying to convince everybody in the group that they were being poisoned. She ended up staying the rest of the time.
Well, her idea was if you throw up, it must be bad for you. It has. What else could it possibly be?
So people, it's like even, like there's places in the jungle where they don't call it ayahuasca; they call it la purga, the purge. Purga. Yeah, it's like I'm going to the purge, not to some ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
It's a purge to cleanse. Yeah,
yeah. But what a
lot of people don't know about that. Like Americans, like I'm sure a big chunk of our society start getting nauseous. They get worried and nervous and scared. Like, what's about to happen to me? Do I need a hospital? And then you put medicine on top of that, causing that to happen. Yeah. Yeah. If they're not well versed in what the other side of life is, that's going to freak them the hell out.
I mean, it's even like a taboo for some people to vomit in front of others, like in the same room. Mm-hmm. I mean, in a bucket.
Oh, yeah, where people won't go outside to do it.
I mean, there's a lot. It's a shock for so many, but some people cannot handle to go and walk, to the bathroom. And
hey,
I'm not going to tell the story. Don't worry.
Not only that. I mean, you look at it. I mean, I think King Solomon said it best: "Vanity, vanity. All the world is vanity."
Yeah.
I've actually watched people put on makeup before going to the ceremony. I'm like, what are you doing that for? Well, I want to look good for ceremony. But you're going to be in the dark for one. You're going to be covered in puke for two. And who are you dressing up for? The demons? It's like, what exactly is going on here? And it's like we think that vanity is, however we have it, however we express it, we think it's part of us. We think it's something, some people think that's something they need to carry in a ceremony. And my perspective on ceremony is for this. It's to see if you are truly connected to spirit And then if you're not, go through the process of cleaning out everything that keeps you from that, because ceremony should be about communion, not about puking, not about writhing on the floor, not about fighting demons. It should be about communing with the very thing looking out of your eyeballs, beating your heart, and raising and, dropping your lungs, breathing you, basically.
I know.
And, is that what are people going to be able to notice that? Ayahuasca is pretty new to the West.
Yeah.
Even mushrooms, they've been around a long time, but it was pretty much in kind of a counterculture place. There wasn't bankers, and there wasn't doctors and lawyers and teachers and therapists, and there wasn't all this going on.
Where it was, who was Robert Gordon Wasson?
Yes.
He was a banker from New York in the 1950s,
Yep.
He was the one who has a Russian wife, and he wrote this book, Mushroom from Russia, and then he went to Mexico and met Maria Sabina.
Right, and ruined everything.
Yeah, I know, but anyway,
Yeah.
he was a banker, so he had this mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to tell you about people who serve medicine, because this is with ayahuasca, but for example with mushrooms, when I started doing mushroom ceremonies, at the beginning it was just mushroom parties.
Mm-hmm.
I was inviting people to drink mushroom tea. So, but then when I developed and acknowledged that it's not just a party, but we have to do something about this power we're getting with the mushrooms, and we should do like more ceremonial space. And I was like, I don't like to use this word also, like holding space, because it's not really what is happening, but it was just a place where we can do mushrooms together and explore individually our own trip, if you want to call it, our own journey into this into the soul journey, journey to your own self and to nature, to connection with everything, the oneness, So when I achieved this, I noticed it, how the ego, because people were like trying to follow me, and the people outside our group, they were thinking this was like a mushroom cult, and I was like the cult leader, giving them mushrooms. And it was crazy. From outside, they just see like a crazy guy walking in the jungle in Tarapoto, with a bamboo stick in my hand, and just, with 7 other people behind me, going to places and like telling them, we have to do mushroom chocolate, we have to do mushroom food, we have to do mushrooms, So there was this moment that everything was turning, and that's why I found out more about dietas in ayahuasca, because I started doing dietas long time ago, and Bobinsana was my first plant I do dieta with, and it really cleaned a lot in my heart. My heart was broken, and I was going through a difficult time in my life, but at the same time I was, being the fungi, the guy with mushrooms, the fungi,
Yeah.
and
Putting on a front.
So it was these two things that dieta showed me very clearly. You have to make a decision. Who are you? Who you want to be? Who are you pretending to be? And what do you want to do with your life? Like, you are not a kid anymore. I was 20-something, 22, 25. But anyway, it was a moment of my life. I said, okay, I have to rethink things, and I have to like settle down. I've never have a home, like a house. Like I never rent a place for myself in the last 10 years, maybe. I was always living in friends' houses or like places where I can stay. So it was a time for me to rethink. I was not going to be a hippie, like just a guy who just go around and take drugs all the time. But I wanted to take these things more seriously, and dieta was showing me that was the way. That was this tradition in the jungle to do dieta, to isolate from society, to take plain food, and to just, be with yourself. No distractions. In my dietas, I barely take a book with me. No internet, of course, no phone, no nothing. Just you and yourself, 2 by 2 in meters. I don't know, in feet, like 4 by 4, I don't know.
Right.
Your bed, your hammock, your table, and that's it,
Yep.
And
Yep.
and yourself, and the river maybe, and I don't know, nature, and all the sounds in the night, and all the things that can come, all the rats in the ceiling, all the ants in the floor. So
Owls chasing rats through your roof.
all these things,
Yeah.
all these things combined show me really what dieta was about and what this plant medicine was showing me about myself and about what I was doing with the mushrooms and how I was letting this egregor, again, this demon. I mean, because mushrooms can be all about love and happiness, you know, but there's also a dark side where this can take control of yourself and you can start acting as this, as a co-leader who thinks mushrooms are God. And
We know someone like that.
you know, it's normal, it's common, this can happen, you know, it's the mycelium growing all around your body and your brain and like expanding everywhere energetically. But with my ayahuasca it was different. So what I was saying and when I was starting to talk about this, it was because serving ayahuasca, it was not like serving mushrooms. Doing this work with plant medicine like ayahuasca and with plant diet, with tobacco, for example. That was something we did at the beginning of every dieta. We'd give everyone tobacco purge. The first day they arrive, tobacco purge, 4 hours vomiting, you know, drinking gallon of water, you know, pooping, vomiting, you know, headache, stomachache.
Ojai's good for that too.
Yeah, but Ojai is too strong for some people, especially
I agree.
for the first, especially for
I
the first
fully
time.
agree.
I mean, the first time you do Ojai, you told me the story in Iquitos, what you did. It was nuts because people have died.
Oh yeah,
taking-
I was right there.
we had a
I
couple-
didn't know if I was
It's-
going to take another breath or not.
It's a poisonous
very
latex from the tree, Ojai. So it's not. It's like taking rubber latex.
Yeah, it's latex.
So, yeah, it's latex. Yeah, in Spanish we say latex. So. So no, it's tobacco purge. Tobacco is not gentle. Tobacco
Although
is-
people have died from that too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah,
very
of course.
dangerous.
That's why we're very careful with the dosage. Again, the dosage, the set and setting, you know. And people who we were working with, also Egner, we did this with Egner, but there was another people we were working this way before, Carlos and Juan Llerena Chavez, very good friends, very good people. And they're brothers, and we keep this tradition that all the groups that were coming to do long dietas, like 10 days or 2 weeks or 1 month, they have to do this process of taking tobacco first.
I was always, you know, for me, it was never an issue to use them in the wrong way. I mean, you know, LSD when I was a kid, I mean, we did eat a lot of that, and we did a lot of playing around. I mean, you know, you do definitely get to do some self-reflection there. But once the elders came into play, and they would tell me, this medicine is to show you how to live, right? You need to learn how to live. And that's how I've had to take it ever since. And, you know, it's funny. It's like I've watched people in ceremonies display an amazing amount of power. Like they have this presence in ceremony. Outside of that, it ain't so pretty. And, you know, for me, what's been important is take what you learn from ceremony and clean up your daily life. Clean up your just all your bullshit. You know, it's like, and you know, to whatever degree you need to. I know I've had to clean up quite a bit of my own jam because, you know, I don't behave well. I do now, but I didn't for a long time. You know, I'd have my ass handed to me left and right until I realized that, because Carlos said it best. It's like, Cristobal, if you're going to do the medicine, you do it for pragmatic reasons. You do it to be able to provide for your family. You do it to be able to live on the land. You do it to be able to have a peaceful house, not to go flying off into some, you know, place you can't access and really has no value to you until you value what's looking out of your eyeballs. Yeah. Well, that's been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
We're calling it quits. That's it. That's episode 67.
That's
in the
right.
bag.
Lindos espíritu y luna, de los bosques hallaremos. Para llama, llama irune. Cuidaremos cuerpo luna. Amiga y niruna y lindos espíritu y luna, de los bosques hallaremos. Para llama, llama irune. ないなないなないないなだりりらいららいらはないなないなないないならいららいららいららいららいららいららいら